Hey, what's going on, guys? In this video, I want to talk about the worst thing about being alive in the year 2026. And basically, the worst thing about being alive in 2026 is that, in the Western world at least, we have been conditioned into a state of learned helplessness, which is a state of perpetual self-loathing. All right, so we're going to get into how we got to this state and then what we can do about it to build back our self-respect. Because pretty much the big picture of it is that we've been brainwashed into hating ourselves, hating each other, and then hating the world. So if you hate yourself, it's not possible to love anything else. So by default, you hate it. So pretty much, how did all this come to be? How did all this start off? Where can we trace it back to? Well, I would say that we can trace it back to you could say that in the most overt sense, this all started with the pandemic. All right. So the pandemic was the initial disruption of everybody's sense of what is actually normal in the world. And the whole plan was to establish a new normal, which we now know as this paradigm of perpetual self-loathing. All right. So during the pandemic, everybody became a victim. Many people lost their jobs, their whole careers were turned upside down. People lost their health due to engaging in vices like alcoholism and drug use. People actually, died from the illness itself. And then, there's family trauma all with that. The pandemic was really a point in which nothing has been the same ever since. And things have been far worse than they were before it. So there was the initial pandemic disruption. This whole thing screwed up society, right? And what then happened after society was pretty much broken and destroyed is that the installation of the new normal, right? The self-loathing, lead with your case file, lead with your personal problems. In this world in 2026, people once had a reputation where their achievements and their accomplishments were the things that defined them. But what defines people now is their sob story. It's their victim mentality. Instead of, presenting themselves as somebody who's proud of the things that they've done, people lead with their failures and expect sympathy. So after the pandemic occurred, people lost all their jobs, everything. It was a normalization of vice, which was, I can point to things like Drizzly, the app where it would deliver alcohol. You had pop stars like Lizzo who would promote gluttony and sloth. The obesity rate has exploded. It's at an all-time high, especially with the younger generation. And this is all because whenever you try to call someone out, quote unquote, call someone out on their vices, only in their best interest, they retort with saying that you're shaming them. I remember when, there was an interview with Post Malone talking about, the death of Little Peep. And, Post Malone was one of those people that was saying, well, if you shame someone, it's like, this dude's drinking cough syrup every day. What do you expect? But this is a sort of thing that is the new normal. It's all about allowing people to destroy themselves and then praise them while they do that because they're doing what they want, right? It's self-care. Self-care isn't actually taking care of yourself. It's catering to your senses, indulging in pleasure, pretty much. That's what they mean by self-care in the mainstream media. So normalizing vices, this is all over the place. We can point to this everywhere. Some of the vices are just de facto symptoms of living a life of convenience and technology. For example, these delivery services that have caused people to not even cook their own food anymore. One way that you can not only not be a pig, but you can also build self-respect is by cooking healthy meals for yourself. instead of getting fake meat from McDonald's, in a sack delivered by somebody, who's just, they just got your sack of slop. You could actually, take yourself to the grocery store, pick out all the ingredients, look up online, look up on YouTube. There's all kinds of recipes that are out there that are healthy, and start your own menu, start your own cooking your own recipes. And then that's a way to build back self-respect and to still be able to enjoy the pleasure of eating, So that's just one thing to think about. So in addition to these vices, like I said, what do you see everywhere? Pretty much every block, I see the words smoke shop, vape, it's everywhere, kratom. All of these things are pushed out there for people. People go from one addiction to the next. One addiction starts to ruin their life. They look for the next one to replace it. That's where we're at right now. And in addition to that, you have the promotion of isolation. People working remote, when they're forced to only be able to communicate on instant messenger, is frustrating over time. Over time, it's going to be very difficult to type out line by line the simplest things, back and forth. It's like a ping pong game of messages, line by line, emails, notifications. The thing I hate that I find to be very draining is constantly having to see these notifications, the little red circle with the 1, and having to constantly click, 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 click over and over and over again to stop seeing these red dots. This is all draining. It's damaging for the chemicals in your brain. It's just, when you hear about these reports that come out that this is screwing up the minds of the youth, this is how it is with a lot of remote jobs. You're just playing around on these messaging things and, constantly line by line communication. And, of course, the whole thing is so that there's a quote unquote digital paper trail, but it's ridiculous. And I think it hinders it, sort of much like not getting exercise where the muscle atrophies. I think this happens to people on a social level, that then they start becoming intimidated or scared of voice calls. Like an actual person calling you up is deemed as too aggressive nowadays sometimes. So, them always deferring you back to the messenger is dehumanizing. You can't have a human conversation. And then the way that a human conversation, voice-to-voice call or something like that, the way that would be looked at as unusual in any sort of way, it says everything right there about how screwed up this world actually is. That you can't just call someone to get something done. So that's pretty much enough right there to tell you that we live in a very disturbed world. So this is all promoted. Isolation is promoted. It all started with the pandemic because, back when the pandemic happened, that's when all of the corporations and the major retail chains and everything started installing self-checkout, right? So I remember when self-checkout was first installed at the grocery store I go to, and, the girl who would normally ring up my groceries was manning the self-checkout with the little, she didn't even look up from the smartphone that monitors the self-checkout. And I saw her, she was right next to me. I said, "Hey, how's everything going? Do you like doing this?" Meaning, do you like the new structure of this job? And she was like, "Yeah, I actually do, because I don't have to talk to people." And I was like, "All right, well, have a good day." It's just, at the end of the day, the formula is people bad, machine good. Talking to the robot is always going to be what you're deferred to nowadays. And the other thing with that is, when you have to talk, when you go the whole day never actually hearing another human voice or never speaking to another human being, and then you do go to the grocery store and then you ring up in self-checkout, you just have that robot voice saying, "Thank you for shopping at Publix," or wherever. It's just, and you hear the "thank you for shopping, thank you for shopping, thank you for shopping at Home Depot." They're all going off at the same time because everyone's doing the job of the cashier and ringing up their own groceries. It's all so dumb. But, on top of that, it's like you have this employee who's, watching the self-checkout thing, even though there's surveillance everywhere. And then if you screw something up, it's sort of humiliating a little bit for them to come over and then try to tell you how to do the job, Pretty much almost every other time I go to the grocery store, I see the young Zoomer employee like showing an elderly person how to like ring up the fruits and stuff on their own. And at the end of the day, I hate self-checkout. I hate it, you know. I just do. I just don't like using self-checkout, period. So that's my thought on that. But again, the promotion of isolation. Remote work is good. You know, you don't have to go to the office, because who would ever want to just deal with people, right? They're all so horrible. Oh my gosh, people nowadays, you just can't deal with them. And it's like, that's not true, because I don't have anything against the people I work with. You know, I mean, I work remote, but at the end of the day, whenever I do have to go to the office for like a potluck or something like that, I enjoy myself, and we all enjoy ourselves, because we're pretty much not even allowed to be in the same, you know, we're separated so much that it's just like, we're thirsting for laughter and togetherness. And I always leave that office feeling better about the nature of the job. And then I sort of slide back to the, you know, with doing remote work, you can sort of slide back to the somewhat depressive state of just feeling totally cut off from the world and feeling like you're wasting your time, you know, that these hours are just passing you by. I mean, I'm making a video right now and I'm on the clock. So what it all boils down to is promoting isolation. Again, you know, this is what it's all about, whether it's online video games and just, you know, having friends online. It's all isolation. You always have to have the filter of the machine between two human beings at all times. That is the main goal of the people who run this world, right? It's to cut off all human-to-human interaction. You know, they may even have AirPods that do real-time translation. So, like, if you're talking to another person with AirPods on, it's just going to sound like two morons, like, speaking to each other in gobbledygook, you know, like, language is not even... And then the machine is translating, you know? So, really what it's all about is that, you know, people are going to become dumber and dumber in the future. And we can see this happening already, clear as day. So, in addition to promoting the isolation, once you have people isolated, you want to keep them separated. You want to keep them separated. So this is the pervasive, negative gender war stuff. Like, someone always hating the opposite. You know, this is where the I can really just say the gender war is the main thing, because there's all you see on social media with TikTok and things is someone making a video in their car complaining about the opposite gender. Like, it's just the most stupidest thing ever. And it's just you know, it's just pulling on the thread of negativity. And then this is what consumes most of people's, they see like reel after reel after reel after reel after reel, and these short reels of just people venting their hateful emotions, their resentful emotions, and it just works its way into people's personality. It just spreads like a virus, you know? So that's the other thing, you know, keeping people separated. So the reason I say is that this is all manipulation is because these algorithms are not organic, they're programmed. So they could just set the algorithm, you know, to be a gender war type thing, where that's most of what people see on TikTok and other social media sites is, you know, the constant issues with dating and, you know, all these people dating online. I mean, that right there is very dehumanizing. So it's just all about dehumanizing to reinforce the self-loathing, the self-hatred, and then thus hating the outside. Just basically like trying to keep all of the hate going in this world as possible, like as much as possible. That's really what it's all about. It's just fueling, it's just adding another more tinder to the flame of hate all over the world. That's what all of this is about. Everything we're forced to endure right now. So you have the separation propaganda, and then you have the devaluation of careers. You know, this all started really going hard during the pandemic, but before that, you could say that the millennials with their wanting a casual work environment, this kind of led to where we're at with the devaluation of careers. Because, you know, back in the earlier 2010s, I remember getting hired at this job that I got a promotion to, and then worked for 7 years and made a lot of money at this company. You know, they said, you know, you got to dress professionally. That's just what they said. And then there would be these people who would refuse to do that. They couldn't just go to TJ Maxx or Ross and then, you know, get a shirt and tie, because they would say, oh, this job doesn't pay enough for that. They would say, oh, dress code doesn't matter, blah, blah, blah. We just talk on the phone. Well, it's about more of that. It shows that you have respect for yourself and you have respect for your job when you have professional attire. I mean, I got promoted because I did what the manager said, and they did uphold their promise to me, because I came professionally dressed and I was promoted, and then they needed people like me to represent the company in a professional way. And this crybaby socialist that I worked with would always balk at doing anything like just dressing what it says to do in the job interview. He would not do that. He would just balk at the dress code. And then the other thing too is that you were allowed 2 15-minute breaks, but you didn't have to take those. So he would make it a point to always, with the other people who kind of had these socialist beliefs, these sort of communist beliefs, they would put their thing, they would all go on their 15-minute breaks at the same time, and they would throw a Nerf ball in the parking lot, just right in front of the office, to just show the managers, we're taking our 15-minute break as we should. But I mean, I would stay inside, and then while they were outside, I would actually get the better prospects, and I would close more deals, and that led to my promotion. So it just goes to show you how self-defeating these sort of mindsets are, where, you're just a victim and the managers oppress you. I got a call coming in right now. Actually, I got to pause this. All right, so I'm back now. So the point of me sharing that story from the early 2010s, when I was working at that company that encouraged professional dress, but then the dude, there was these millennials that would balk at that because they were not about that suit and tie, like that Justin Timberlake, Jay-Z track. Millennials were the generation that opposed dressing up for work, wanted more casual work environments. But that led to, in the pandemic period, it led to just devaluing employees in general. Like, basically, one example of this is that during the pandemic this started, I walk into a CVS and I don't see one person that worked there, like with a CVS uniform on. They're just people in navy blue shirts, so I'm like, I had to walk around and just find another human being and just say, do you actually work here? And this is a CVS, mind you. This is a place that you clearly used to have a uniform, but then people are just in khakis with just a navy blue shirt. It's like dehumanizing. It's like CVS should just put, print a shirt that just says, hi, I work here on it. And, just let that thing get stained up and never wash it, just never present yourself. I mean, it's just unbelievable what has happened nowadays. And this is all because top down, these corporations hate people and they see no value in human beings doing these jobs. And they've said it themselves. They say, what value is that person who's flipping burgers actually even provide? I mean, or if someone's scanning groceries. I mean, there's people that I knew growing up, cashiers that would work at the local grocery store who, they actually were paid decently and enjoyed their jobs. And, I remember my mom, when she would shop at the grocery store, she'd go through the same cashier's line every single week, and actually would talk to the cashier and had a sort of small talk relationship. Those things do not exist anymore. You'd be lucky if you can get the same person, cutting your hair every month. So it's all about interchanging, never being one individual. Like, I noticed this at the dentist office, for example. I'll go, it's a different hygienist every time. If I'm, I will see the actual dentist there. She'll pop in for a brief moment and then examine my teeth. But, for the most part, I used to have the same hygienist every single time for years, and had this relationship. And I was used to how she did my teeth, you know what I mean? But now, every time I go, it's a different hygienist. So I got some of these hygienists that are torturing me, scraping plaque off my teeth. And then, the next person I go to is actually good at it. So it's a crapshoot every time. But this is the devaluation of careers. Don't even give someone a uniform. Don't allow a person to have the same type of repeat. You can't just be a repeat customer to the same type of person anymore, really. It's very odd if that actually happens, because there's this constant effort for like, you can't stand out at a company. It's just how you act you have to act like how everybody else acts. You can't go the extra mile, because that would be separating yourself from the one sort of entity that they're trying to create, through automation and everything. It's like you're no longer dealing with an employee at that company. You're just dealing with the company itself. That's kind of how things are. But yeah, these are examples of devaluing careers. Careers in general, like, you can't get, every single job has been debased, devalued, outsourced, automation takes it over, AI, whatever. I mean, like, and if you don't have a job that you can be proud of doing, you're going to be self-loathing and you're going to hate the world. But that's the whole plan. You're supposed to feel that way, right? So with the devaluation of careers, this started during the pandemic. So the last thing I want to talk about is, after all this has been done and people are already feeling at their most miserable, you have the disclosure of corruption. That's pretty much the icing on the cake, is the disclosure of corruption, the open disclosure of corruption. So apparently on the Department of Justice website, you can view, I guess, thousands, maybe even millions of emails about a very interesting Peter Pan type character that has his own private island that was the party spot for all the people in power. You can read all about that sordid saga right on the website of the Department of Justice. What does that tell you? It tells you that they want to just rub it in everybody's face and say, look who we are and what we can do to you, and you can't do anything about it. So nothing reinforces the learned helplessness. Like, basically that puts everybody in the Western world, everybody in America, to be like laying on that electric floor, being shocked like the dog in the learned helplessness experiment. And that's the whole thing, is that, the learned helplessness experiment is something that you can't even really openly talk about, because if you talk about this science experiment that they actually electrocute dogs, the person's going to be like, they did what to dogs? They can't even like sit there and listen through it to hear the whole point of it, of how you can condition a person into being helpless, a helpless victim. And not only that, is that once they're a helpless victim, they can't even see an opportunity for freedom. They can't see, you can't even get them to escape their own torment at that point. They just accept it and they endure it over and over again. And while they endure it, they're in a state of internal hell and misery. And that's the state that's the end state that everybody who's controlling the society wants you to be in, is a state of internal hell. So what can we do about all of this, being that it's going on and that this is where it all came from? Well, what we can do is we can replace things like, for example, let's just break these things down one by one. If you're the type of person who wastes time scrolling, the vice is sloth and envy. You're just sitting there watching everybody else, probably feeling bad about yourself, and then you're just wasting time. So what you could do in that instance is actually do something, like go for a long walk for an hour. Instead of scrolling for an hour, go for a long walk in which you'll come back from that walk knowing fundamentally, scientifically, whatever, by fact, you did something healthy for yourself. Therefore, you should be proud of yourself. You should feel the respect starting to culminate. The other thing is that being exposed to all this media creates a lot of noise in our head. So instead of even looking at the cell phone every morning and doing this sort of stuff for a half hour, you could meditate and you could clear your head. So the way that you can do that is, for me personally, what I do is I have a Tibetan singing bowl, which is that bell, that sustained bell sound, right? So with the singing bowl, it actually serves as a, like the bell in the Pavlov dog experiment, where you can actually anchor your subconscious to where you hear the sound of the bell. You enter into a meditative trance. So to do this, you have to actually condition yourself. So the way that you can go into a trance pretty much on command is that you use the singing bowl and then you count down from 100, 100, 99, 98, and so on, all the way down to 0. And by that point, you'll get into a hypnotic trance and your breathing pattern will change. And the other thing I notice is that when I get into a trance, the tongue goes to the, like, sucks on the roof of my mouth. And, you know, my posture changed. I sit up straight, you know, in a lotus position. And then I notice that my breathing changes, my tongue changes, my tongue posture changes. And then I close my eyes and I roll my eyes upwardly back in my head so that both eyes are kind of cross pointing to my forehead. When you dream, your eyes roll back in your head just like in that state, because you know, it's like everything is, with the tongue and everything, it's activating that third eye. And when you roll your eyes in your back of the head, it's called Shambhavi Mudra. It's a technique in Hindu meditation. So every single morning for 30 minutes between 7 and 7:30, this is what I do when I come back from a walk. I'll fire up a candle, I'll fire up some incense right on my windowsill, I'll watch the incense, I'll get the sound of the bowl going, I'll enter into a meditative trance, and I just allow myself to be engulfed by the sounds of the birds singing outside, those sounds of morning, you know, these birds. I just allow myself to my personality dissolves, and it's just the pure sounds of nature outside, and the smell of the incense, and the sound of the bell. And then my mind is totally blank, and then I'm allowed relief. I'm allowed relief from the internal noise. And this is very healing because it allows your mind to actually be at peace and stillness and rest. So this is what I do usually for a half hour, and then a thought will come to me of something to do. And it's usually a pretty pure thought. So then I will go out and go forth and do that following the meditation. Usually then I clock in at 8, and then I just work till 4:30. And then, you know, I'll teach guitar lessons in the afternoon, play music and things like that. And then when I come home in the evening times, I'll fire up the candle, fire up the incense, and do another meditation. And this is just, when you do this and you can enter into a hypnotic trance, not only do you have spiritual experiences and things like that, but you also have the victory of not being on the cell phone. You are rejecting technology. You're taking control of your mind, yourself, instead of having your mind controlled by the powers that be, the technocrats, and all these people who hate humanity. So in essence, you take that tug of war, you take that rope, and you pull it back to yourself. You know, you pull it towards yourself every time you meditate, and you just watch those technocrats fall. So, you know, this is how you can accumulate that self-respect. So, meditative trance, you know, count down from 100, use the singing bowl to anchor yourself so that you don't have to count down from 100 every time. You can just do the sound of the bell, the bowl, and you can, within moments, just enter into that hypnotic meditative state. Clear your head, be engulfed by the sounds of the birds outside. So then when you look at things like, you know, sloth and gluttony, where you just are getting, you know, delivery services for terrible food with fake meat, fake ingredients, bioengineered, whatever. You can go out, you can get some real food, raw food yourself, and then, you know, look up some sort of recipe, whatever you feel like doing, and then just make that meal. And in the end, you're always going to be probably saving money. So you have the self-respect of that, and then you have a skill that you're doing, and then you have the pride of being able to devour what you have created. You know, so you essentially are treating yourself like a king. So cooking your own meals and doing that is a way to build self-respect. So some other things to think about, you know, instead of playing video games, you could play a musical instrument. Because the thing is with music is that it is kind of like the language of the universe. There's geometry related to music with intervals and things like that. It provides something spiritual for you. So when you take up new hobbies, like, you know, if you want to even learn piano, it doesn't matter what the instrument is, because doing any instrument, learning any instrument or playing any instrument is a spiritual thing. It's something that is going to build you up spiritually, because music itself is sound vibrations, and these things affect the subconscious. It affects you on the inside, you know. That's why with when you learn about music and music theory and the modes of the major scale, you can deliberately, consciously play in modes, in chord progressions that specifically will uplift you from just playing it. So that's taking the power back even more. Now then imagine if you are a guitarist like I am, you know, guitar player like I am, then you go out in public and play this music. So then you're affecting other people too. So you're spreading that positive spiritual stuff that, builds people up instead of breaking people down and separating them. So other things that we can do, just thinking about all of this, there's so many people out there that try to give advice. I'm not really trying to give advice with this. It's just more of what I actually do to counter the misery that is being forced upon us in this world that we're living in to this day. The solution is not to complain about it. It's to point to what it is and to strategically take down each aspect of it, right? So anything that you're doing that is productive and creative is going to be satisfactory for your mind. It's a good use of time, and you have something that you've done. If you do art, for example, you could spend an afternoon drawing something, and this is something that you can make prints of, sell, and frame, and it can be on your wall for the rest of your life, somebody's wall. So these are things that you can do, you can take action with. The things that kind of corrupt your ability to build a self-respect are anything that is automated, anything, like these video games and stuff, that's not going to do anything for you. I got another call coming in right now. Probably time to wrap this up. I'll be back in 1 sec. All right, wrapping this up just because the work day is really starting to pick up now, and I got to depart this endeavor. But to wrap it up, talk about meditation and these things. I can get deeper into that another time. If you like, comment, and subscribe, but I'm trying to actually give tangible things that you can just straight up put on your schedule to do. Like when you look at your day, just picture time slots, from 6 a.m. until 10 p.m. What are you going to be doing in those blocks of time? And this sort of approach of making a real concerted, tangible effort, just writing it down, just filling it out. This is going to prevent you from ending up on the couch scrolling like a moron for your whole entire day. So you just have to really be conscious of this type of stuff, and the fact that this is a spiritual war that we're in, and it's a war to send you to hell through self-loathing and self-hatred. That's what it's all about. And the way that you've been coaxed into this mindset is from all these things I described that happen. It's like a 7-fold step-by-step thing of, you've got the pandemic disruption, breaking everything apart, and the installation of the new normal, which is weaponized self-loathing through normalization of vices and promotion of vices, demonizing people who call this out, promoting isolation, making people afraid to talk to one another, let alone anything more, being a friend. And then the constant reinforcement of isolation through separation propaganda. This is where the social media comes into play with the stupid reels, where all it is some dumbass sitting in their car complaining. None of this stuff is going to be getting you anywhere. So then you go further, and it's the devaluation of careers. Remote work is very isolating. You're confined to communicate through the machine for everything. Type everything out. Click, click, click. All these notifications just draining the dopamine in your brain, because they say that the red circle notification is the main thing that just hits the brain. And then, just not even having a work uniform. Your company just says, just show up with a blue t-shirt on. You don't even get a t-shirt that has the company name on it. So it's just pathetic. This type of thing of devaluing people is dehumanizing people, and it's led to a lot of bad attitudes and a lot of just the decline of everything. It's just made everything more degenerate and really difficult to have a good time around. It's very difficult nowadays to actually have that good time that you're looking for. So, these are some of the things. I'm kind of, my mental state right now is less focused because I gotta actually do my job. But think about these things. Really take action. Like I said, the time slots of your day, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. What are you going to do? Are you going to meditate? Are you going to get physical exercise? Are you going to cook your own meals? Are you going to do things that take the power back and put it in your hands instead of you constantly giving the power to these friggin' technocrats? So take it for what it is. Peace.